Hello, this is Umberta Genta and welcome to another episode of the Intondo podcast, the podcast that puts vintage design stories back into circulation. Our stories rediscover meaningful objects made in the past, pieces that can inspire us to recover vintage design and bring a personal mark within the contemporary home while helping circular economy. This episode is about those special statement pieces of vintage furniture, timeless creations that go against the linear norm, objects that are simply unmissable in an interior and can in fact be the starting point for the entire style of the room. As an example, we picked a Serpentine sofa created by Russian designer Vladimir Kagan in 1952. Comfort, functionality, and innovation are always at the core of the seasonal trends, and it was already like this in the 50s when interior decoration was switching towards a much more functional approach. When we came across this sofa, a window opened on a chapter of design history that pioneered several trends. Vladimir Kagan was a legendary mid-century furniture designer whose creations featured sensuous curves that were both classically elegant and unique. Kagan lived in New York all his life, and he is regarded as the king of sexy furniture as well as a pioneer of ergonomic design. The Serpentine sofa is one of his most famous creations. It is free-floating, characterized by an undulating shape, and has no armrests. Elegant in a classical way and innovative at the same time due to its materials, rubber strapping and foam. Because of its curved line, it can be placed in the middle of the room and totally change the space around itself. During the decades, it's been updated and customized, passing from the leather version to the velvet one, but its main philosophy remains the same, as it is well explained by the designer's words when he had to explain how he conceived this unconventional seat. "We don't all have to sit like birds on a telephone wire," he used to say. Also, craftsmen and designers who used to collaborate with Kagan remember him always repeating that a sofa has to look as good from the back as it does from the front. Design often crosses the worlds of fashion, luxury, and in this precise case, art. Imagine designing a sofa around an art collection. This was what Kagan had in mind when he created the Serpentine sofa. It was a mutual exchange between his vision and the needs expressed by his clients. At the time, Manhattan high-end clients were starting redecorating their apartments and lofts around abstract expressionist paintings. And what was best than having a sofa for viewing art? A flexible piece of furniture that involved seating informally, chatting, and moving around. From the 50s up to recent times, Kagan's sofa, such as the Serpentine, were appreciated and collected on a large scale. From divas such as Marilyn Monroe to film directors like David Lynch, from celebrities like David Bowie to artists like Andy Warhol, and contemporary architects. Archie star Zaha Hadid once said about Kagan's pieces, "Within each piece you can perceive a profound lightness and continuity. While the works of his contemporaries are definitive and frozen, you experience a wonderful sense of liberation in the non-linear, organic forms of Vladimir's collections." Pushing the boundaries seems to be Kagan's call, very well embodied by his Serpentine sofa, which is perceived as a timeless icon. In the 90s, there was a big revival of another of his masterpieces, the modular omnibus sofa. Fashion designer and filmmaker Tom Ford, who is deeply passionate about vintage, brought it back to fashion by placing it in several Gucci boutiques around the world. Kagan always enjoyed the contaminations between design, art, and different fields, and one needs to dig in his personal story to understand how he naturally approached design as a mix of technical skills and art. Kagan died in 2016 at the age of 88. He had started working very young, therefore his long career covered different eras, trends and lifestyle changes. He was born in Worms on the Rhine in Germany in 1927 in a Jewish-Russian family. His first master was definitely his father, who was a very skilled cabinet maker. During the First World War, his father had been taken prisoner in Germany, and during his captivity, he had begun to teach woodworking. So when the war ended, he decided to establish his permanent home in Germany. Vladimir had a quite turbulent childhood here because in 1938, when he was only 11 years old, he emigrated with his family to New York because of the rise of Nazism. While his father kept on working as a cabinet maker in a small shop, Vladimir was more interested into being a sculptor or a painter, but at the same time, he was inevitably seeing and learning from his father the art of woodworking. Meanwhile, he graduated from the School of Industrial Art and went on to study architecture at Columbia University. However, sculpture and art never stopped to inspire him, and when Kagan decided to open his own shop and make his own furniture at a young age of 22, he said his goal was to create vessels to hold the human body, a concept very much eradicated in his interest for curvaceous shapes and nature observation. Art always accompanied his work. For example, throughout his career, in order to make clients visualize better the final product, he used to make mock-up models in clay so they could instantly understand the piece's volume and style. Pushing the boundaries remained his trademark in any of his creations. Even when his work touched official institutions like the headquarters of the United Nations in New York, for which, in the 40s, he designed the furniture for the cocktail lounge. And in the 60s, Kagan's also renovated the furniture of the Monsanto House of the Future at Disneyland, which was an interpretation of the House of the Future. Here, Kagan introduced the microwave and the French door, pioneering two very popular trends in contemporary life and architecture. Thank you for listening to today's episode dedicated to the Serpentine sofa by designer Vladimir Kagan, and dedicated to all of you in search of that special object that can make you feel better in your home. My name is Umberta Genta, and this is the Intondo podcast. For more vintage design stories, don't miss the next podcast and visit intondo.com.